Hello and welcome back to a brand new vlog. My name is Orion and I make videos every single Wednesday and Sunday and I post them at 6 p.m. And we are back at the garage continuing the conversion and the floor is looking good, albeit very dirty. I'm pretty sure we could probably just mop this floor, but I still haven't really decided what I'm gonna do. I did see those like jigsaw mats that you can put down, which might be the best thing to do because we could always lift it up later. But I need to clear all this stuff out because a lot of like the household goods and the camping things have come over here and I need the space today. Because on today's agenda, I'm going to be building a stud wall to fill this gap here. And I think when it's done, it's really gonna change and make this thing start to feel real. I've been out and got a door lining set and I'm definitely not short on CLS. I've got loads. So I think with this new tool as well, we should be good to go. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is just give the place a little sweep up, even though I'm gonna be making a mess, and start measuring out the base plate for essentially what is going to be the stud work. What I'm currently thinking is getting a base plate down here, a top plate screwed up to there, which is going to be a bit of a faff because it's a steel beam and I'm going to screw directly into one of these holes. However, once I've got that all squared up, I can actually start working on the studs. All right, the first cut from there to there is 281. I have already measured all this up, but I'm gonna measure as I cut just because I've made mistakes in the past and I feel like it's probably better to measure twice, 3 times, 4 times and cut once. So with it all marked out on the wood, we're gonna be using the miter saw to do all of our cutting today. And I imagine this is gonna be a tight fit, but fingers crossed, we did it right the first time. Not quite, need to shave a little bit more off. All right, this should just slot in. Oh, perfect. And I believe it is also level. Right, now before I actually drill some holes and bolt this to the floor, I have actually got some damp-proof course that I'm gonna be putting down underneath it. This will essentially stop any of the moisture rising up into the wood and damaging it in the future. It's not entirely necessary to do this, but better to be safe than sorry. Now that we have got all of that on, it is time to drill some holes. I did actually try using a combi drill to do this, but because of how hard the concrete is, I couldn't drill far enough. So I've got myself an SDS drill. All right, that is going absolutely nowhere. However, I have actually messed up a little bit here because I'm going to be putting a door frame in. So I'm probably going to be cutting this like section out here, which means the bolts I put in the middle are completely useless. This is what happens when you're trying to do things on a tight schedule and you're just going for it. It's also extremely hot, by the way, so I'm sorry about the sweat and how gross I look. All right, I have drawn out some markings. The door is going to go in this space here. The door lining is going to go there. The lining stud is going to go there. And the king stud is going to go there. That will all make a lot more sense later on. But for now, let's measure up the top and get that cut down. Now that we've got that cut down, time for the difficult part. I need to drill a hole in that wood into directly one of these holes. So I'm gonna have to do some measurements and apply it to the wood because I just so happen to have some screws that fit perfectly in there. Okay, I skipped the process of filming myself putting this up because I tried measurements and it didn't work. So just came up with the idea of tracing it. So using some paper, we lined it up with the holes and we just poked a hole through using the pencil and then lined it up with the wood and managed to get the top plate completely secured into the ceiling. Now that we have the base plate in and the top plate in, we can actually start working on building studs that go all the way down. So let's get the tape back out and measure from top to bottom. We need one cut of 227 and we need another one of 2295. That's 1 and 2. Now what we need to do is make sure it is perfectly plumb, which it is, and then screw it in. I'm actually going to be using the same screws that I used for the top plate just because they happen to fit up there. But these are actually concrete screws. I was hoping I could like screw them straight into the brick, but I actually bought them mainly for the breeze block and for the floor, so I didn't have to worry about pre-drilling or anything like that. However, they won't go in, so I am using a collection of drills. I'm using this one to drill through the wood, this one to screw in, and then the SDS drill to actually get through the brick. And I'm so glad I did because this actually makes light work of the brick. I just need one more battery because that one doesn't have one. Not that it's the end of the world to keep swapping them over. But with the two uprights now pinned to the wall, I am now going to start doing the stud work that goes all the way across. However, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using a king stud and then a lining stud, and then obviously that's the lining. Now, the terminology may be American, I'm not really sure, but after watching some YouTube videos, basically, I'm having a king stud that's going to go from the ground there on the bottom plate all the way up to the top plate, and that is going to form one stud. And then the lining stud is only going to go up to like here, basically to the top of the door. And that is so the header for the door lining can sit on top of the trim stud. And then I'm going to put another header on top of that to basically brace the weight from the ceiling. It's not actually that important, to be perfectly honest, because there is a steel bar or beam rather that runs across the ceiling there. And it's already all braced and stuff like that. But I'm going to do it properly, and that's how, if you were to build a stud wall and put a door in, that's what you need to do. So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of wood cut up. So let's get it all measured up and cut down on the miter saw. All right, I have built out the door lining, so I know exactly what measurements I need to cut, and I've got the king studs up there now and the 2 lining studs as well. I am now going to start fitting them in and working from left to right to make sure it is exactly perfect. And to save myself the stress of constantly having to measure the gap between the two at the top and the bottom, I've cut myself a noggin that slots in there perfectly, and then I just push the wood to it. Now, using a clamp, I'm going to basically screw these 2 pieces of wood together. The clamp is basically there to help tie the wood together with the screw so I don't end up with like a gap down the middle. You could screw from both sides and then, yeah, you wouldn't have a gap. Like this is like completely flush. And I need to do some more in the middle, as you can kind of see light through there. But as I'm working with a bit of a tight space, a clamp is perfect. You could actually use a brad nailer to nail it all in, which typically when doing stud work, people use like a first fix and a second fix nailer. And nail stud work in. It's a lot faster than the way I'm doing it. However, I don't have one of those as much as I would like to buy one. I'm not spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on getting some first and second fix nailers just to do this room. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So we're sticking to the drill, which is working a treat because we now have ourselves a doorway. Now that's done, it is a case of doing the rest of the stud work, and I'm thinking I want 2 in here. So I'm going to take the whole measurement and then divide it by 3, and that should give me perfect placement for 2 more uprights. So all I need to do is put some noggins in between and tie it all together, screw it in, and job will be good. It is probably worth mentioning at this point why I've decided to put the stud wall here exactly, and it's because when I start to add battens to this wall like this, I'm going to actually batten on top of this stud here. So up there, you'll see the batten covers up the plate. Not only that, but it'll increase the thickness of the wall, and the reason I need to do that is because of the door lining. The door lining is actually a lot thicker than the CLS I have here, so doubling it up will increase the thickness, fitting this in perfectly, and then I can add insulation on the inside, and then later on when it's all completed, this will be quite bare for now until I get some more insulation. I can insulate this and decide what I want to do on the outside, whether I continue like this cladding that we've got here and bring it all the way across. I'm not entirely sure yet, I've not thought about it. I just want to get the inside done. In effect, this is actually an exterior stud wall that I'm building, despite the fact that it's never actually going to be outside. But with all of the noggins now in, we are just left with finishing the door. So what we're going to do is take the bolts back out the base plate, saw it out, and put the new door lining in, which should hopefully fit really snug in there. Oh, do you look at that? Black eye glove. Perfecto. Gonna kick it. Right. What I do, screw that in. At least that's what I thought. Unfortunately, the wood on this thing that I bought has snapped, completely sheared off. So I now have no header. I was gonna build my own anyway, so I think what I'm gonna have to do is trim these down to size here and then build my own header that goes all the way across. The plus side of using screws is I can just unscrew it all and then screw it back in. Crisis averted. I grabbed some 2x6 that I had lying around, and I basically glued them together, screwed them together, and then used that as my header. I just need to put some noggins above it, and then that should be done. I mean, it is solid, it ain't going anywhere, and it's the perfect size for the door. One stud wall built and completed. It was almost smooth sailing putting this thing together. Obviously, with the door, it became a bit of a fiddly business which is why it's taken me a little longer than I'd hoped. I'm literally dripping as sweat, as you can see. Sorry, it's so gross. But we've done it. I just need to clean up all the mess I've created. And I know it may seem obvious, but trust me, future you will appreciate the fact that it's nice and tidy to crack on next time. This is what we are now looking like from the front side, all ready to be banned or whatever I decide to do next, but it's nice and clean here. I have put some expanding foam to fill the holes that I created earlier, but I'm likely to put like a kicker or like a door thing at the bottom anyway, so you won't see them. It's not like big of an issue. But there you go. We have now got ourselves a full square or rectangle to work with. Next time we are going to be fitting some battens to the wall and adding DPM as well to stop any damp getting through into the room. And I imagine next time, because it's going to be very similar to how I've done this, I'm probably going to time lapse a lot of that because I didn't realize it would take me a full vlog just to do one wall. That being said, the door was a major part of that. Overall, however, I am happy with how it turned out, considering I have never actually done that before. So on that note, guys, if I can do it, you can do it too. That is kind of like the new saying that I'm going with, because a lot of people ask me all the time, like, oh, did you used to do trade work, or like, have you been trained to do this, or anything like that? The answer is just no. I literally self-teach myself. That was a long sentence, but all of this stuff is all self-taught, watching YouTube, looking at guides, asking friends who do this stuff for a living. And to me, it doesn't seem all that difficult. It just takes a bit of patience and thought and a proper amount of research, and anyone can do it. However, if you've enjoyed this video, please do leave it a thumbs up rating. I would appreciate that. I realize people watch me on TV or like on tablets, phones, PCs, Macs, you name it. The demographic's quite odd for where people watch it, but if you can find the thumbs up button, I would really appreciate it, because it helps the channel reach new people and helps us grow to those new subscribers. So if you are someone who is new here and you enjoy DIY content, or if you just want to follow along with my life, I'm currently having a baby in about 5 months from now, which is why I am doing this stuff, then please do hit subscribe and join along for the journey. After we have finished converting this room, the fun can really begin out there. A little sneak peek for you. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Peace, much love. Bye-bye.